Welcome everybody to Sofa King Devin. Remember to say that slowly. Today is a good day, for it is new show day, and I'm excited for this one. I wanted to keep episode 2 as non-controversial as possible. So it's America themed. People get nervous when talking about America, but that's what's so great about it. We're supposed to be able to talk about our issues no matter where you stand. There's so many different people and opinions, most bad, but they all have a different perspective on life. Never be afraid to change your mind. Most of y'all need to calm down, but it's also a beautiful thing. Now with that out of the way, sit back and enjoy episode 2, Red, White, and Blue. Welcome to the Devin Desk section. Now, today's episode is USA themed, but please take a deep breath. I'm going to do my own thing with this topic and not swing left or right and keep my show right down the middle of crazy town. And when I do that, please remember, I am Team Earth. I believe we are one planet and we should start acting like it. For my first story today, do you remember when William Shatner went to space? He spent about 3 minutes on the outer rings of Earth and looked down upon us all. Captain James T. Kirk has actually been to space. I love it, man. This happened on October 13th, 2021, and I want to remind people how close we are to going to space. He was on the second rocket of Jeff Bezos' rocket company, Blue Origin. Now, it's crazy to think he was on the second rocket, like maybe test them a little more before sending the old man up, but it was a complete success, and from launch to landing it was about 10 minutes. At 90 years old, he is still the oldest man to go to space. After his experience, he spoke with Jeff Bezos about how he was feeling. What you have given me is the most profound experience I can imagine. I'm so filled with emotion about what just happened. It's extraordinary. If you haven't seen the interview after he lands, you should. If not, just for Jeff Bezos' cowboy hat. What a world, man. He's currently 92 years old. He starred as James T. Kirk on Star Trek on a TV show in 1966. He saw the moon landing in 1969. And in 2021, he spent 3 minutes on the outer rings of Earth. Amazing. For this next one, I'd like to take some of you back to history class, but actually try to keep it interesting. Let's talk about America's War of Miscommunication. Now, war is never funny, but it was 200 years ago, so get over it. Plus, joking about anything and everything is the American way. History can be surprising. Putting everything into hindsight and in today's perspective can paint a very different picture about what you believe. Now with that being said, I'll try not to bore you with this segment, and I'm taking some of you back to high school history class when I say the War of 1812. In the beginning of the year 1812, trade was becoming especially difficult for early Americans. England was at war with Napoleon and we were trying to trade on both sides. England was making it especially difficult because they were still salty over the revolution. So the president at the time, James Madison, kept saying, "Stop it or we'll fight you." England at the time was fighting in Spain, Portugal, and France. So the king on June 16th agreed to chill out and sent a letter to the Americans. Problem was, it took about a month for letters to get across the ocean. So 2 days later, on June 18th, America declares war on Great Britain. The king basically took too long to respond. Now at this time, Canada is part of the English Empire, and the American plan is to give Canada some freedom, and they'll all be so impressed they'll want to come join us. So the original plan in the War of 1812 was to take Canada. Yep, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and basically everybody in the American government thought taking all of Canada would be easy. Canada, do you know how big that is? The war lasted from June 1812 to February 1815. That's 2 years and 8 months. You may be wondering, why do we call it the War of 1812? So America went to war with Canada with a poorly trained and poorly led army, and quickly learned that Canada was very hard for Team England at the time. And within months, the British had actually taken some territory from the US and were holding strong. The Americans do sneak their way into the Canadian town of York and set most of it on fire. But that was right after England was no longer at war with Napoleon. So they were sending their troops to America. And on August 24th, 1814, British forces take Washington, D.C. and burn down the White House, the presidential mansion, the mansion, and multiple government buildings. This picture is probably the only thing you know about this war. The British wanted this fire to go for days. They wanted to burn pretty much everything. But that night, a freak storm comes through. Now, it was 200 years ago, so the facts are a little iffy, but a freak storm comes through and puts out all of the fire. It was either a hurricane or a tornado, maybe both. Either way, it puts out all of the fire and kills more British troops than any Americans do during the war. All of the British soldiers were just in the line of fire from the storm and were not ready. So Britain holds Washington, D.C. for 26 hours and then has to evacuate because of the storm. They expected this to be a moral defeat for the Americans, but all it did was rally the troops. Woo! The war continues and we get the Star-Spangled Banner poem from a battle in Baltimore, Maryland, until December 24th, 1814, when the British and American governments come to an agreement. This agreement pretty much says, that was fun, let's forget it. All the borders would go back to the way they were, we would all just forget this ever happened. So it was signed by the king and on its way back to the Americans. Problem was, he signed it on December 24th. On January 8th, 1815, unaware the war was technically over, British forces attack New Orleans and get rolled by Andrew Jackson and his much smaller army. So as people are recovering from this battle, they get told the war's been over. This was just insult to injury for the British soldiers. Many saw this as the Second War of Independence, and the Americans partied on this day for 50 years, even though they didn't accomplish anything. This was the first time America went to war as a nation after the Revolution. Now, they didn't win anything, but we didn't lose. It's rant time, and I need a front row seat for this one. It was my suggestion. For today's rant, I'm ranting at America. Why did you steal the name of the game football? Why does he look like this? Why does his camera look like this? I'm not allowing it. Why did you steal the name of the game football? You saw the rest of the world playing a sport and said, I'm not only not playing that sport, I'm going to invent my own. And then I'm going to call it the name of that sport. You know it's not called soccer anywhere else on the earth? You want to know why? You play it with your foot. That's why they call it football. In American football, you can't even use your feet. There's one player that can. Not only have you changed your entire measuring system from the rest of the planet, Fahrenheit, not Celsius, miles, not kilometers. In American football, it's not even measured in feet, it's measured in yards. It's measured in yards. Hear me and rejoice. You have had the privilege of being saved by the great Lord Vader. You may think this is suffering. No, it is salvation. The universal scales tip towards the dark side because of your sacrifice. Smile, for even in death, you have become children of the Empire.
I know what it's like to lose. To feel so desperately that you're right, yet to fail nonetheless. It's frightening. Turns the legs to jelly. I ask you to what end? Dread it. Run from it. Destiny arrives all the same. And now it's here. Or should I say, I am.
Woo! Let me ask you some questions. Do you like war movies? Do you like good war movies? Hacksaw Ridge, Saving Private Ryan? Do you hate Nazis? Do you like movies where Nazis die? Me too. And there's no one I like to watch kill Nazis more than Brad Pitt. Now, you may be thinking, oh, it's Inglourious Bastards, another great movie, but you're wrong. Today's movie, I'm talking about a movie that deserves more praise for how friggin' good it is. I'm talking top-of-the-line action with real, raw acting. With top-of-the-line actors like Brad Pitt, Shia LaBeouf, Michael Pena, John Bernthal, and Logan Lerman. Today's movie, Fury. What happens when you cram all of these fully grown adults into a small tank for multiple hours, where they can fester and share smells all day? What happens, you ask? You get one of the greatest war movies of all time, that's what.
Are you here? He kills you, or you kill...
During World War II, the Sherman tank needed roughly 5 men to be fully operational. Nothing against the women, but in World War II, tanks were for the men. Woo! And the crew you'd have in your tank was your whole life. Day in and day out for months on end, and just you and those other guys crammed in your small little metal can. No matter what would happen, you would have those guys.
Ain't no crew stay together like we have. That's because of him.
The director, David Ayer, wanted this movie as close to historically accurate as he could get. The entire cast did a week of hard boot camp to bond and put some chemistry between them. It's so thought out, the cast also sat down with World War II veterans and heard war stories they wouldn't even tell their families. It's so authentic, they're actually in a Sherman tank. Michael Pena, who plays the driver, is really driving a tank. Now, I don't believe this is based on a true story, but this was very real. And when I say that, please remember, World War II is a very dark part of history, and the crew of Fury have been through it. We start in April 1945, and the tank has just been hit with the worst. We meet War Daddy, the commander of the tank, nicknamed Fury, played by Brad Pitt. In his tank, he has Michael Pena as the driver, Shia LaBeouf as gunner, John Bernthal as the mechanic / gunloader. Now, this crew and this tank have been together for some time now, and they have just lost their second gunner. Rest in peace.
I promised my crew a long time ago I'd keep them alive.
One of their brothers has just died and is instantly replaced by a guy who can type really fast. Yep. While in Germany, they were given Private Norman Edison, played by Logan Lerman. Poor Norman here was working a desk and is forced to join the war and thrown into this tank. Norman has no idea what is going on and what he should be doing all of the time.
Don't get too close to anyone.
This movie really puts you in the tank with these hard war-torn sons of bitches. You were in this small metal can with men that have been and are going through hell. This movie sets a dark tone by showing some of the horrors of war. It's dirty, there's dead bodies everywhere, no one's having a good time.
I'm scared too.
The cast and crew really gave it everything on this one. Watching Norman slowly lose his soul to war is such a roller coaster ride that afterwards, I just wanted to get a beer with these guys. I've come to realize that rating a war movie on the same scale as Monsters vs. Aliens just doesn't feel right. So I give this movie the Devon Seal of Approval. I put it up there with some of the greats, so if you like war movies, you gotta see Fury. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I have no idea when I'm going to make another one of these, but we'll see what happens. But hey, have a lucky day tomorrow. Smile, and I'm not going to use this cut, so I'm just going to stop right here. He was born in 1931. He started his role as Captain James T. Kirk. Dang it, man. All the British troops were just in the line of fire for the storm. All right, we're going one more time. All right, here we go. All the marbles right here. Alrighty. All right.